Honor's Magic 6 series is upon us, and the first release is their entry-level model, which is the Magic 6 Lite. Now, this phone here is powered by the Snapdragon 6 Gen 1. It has a 6.78-inch screen. It's curved AMOLED, a bright screen, a sharp screen, and it's also flicker-free. It does not have any that I can detect a flicker because of its 1920Hz pulse width modulation the screen does have. And 120Hz refresh rate means that all the UI is very smooth. It's also got a 108 megapixel main camera on the rear, 5 megapixel ultra wide, and a 16 megapixel selfie camera. The fingerprint reader that's located in screen, it's an optical one, and I'll be letting you know what kind of battery life you can expect out of the 5,300 mAh battery, gaming performance, and exactly what the new Honor Magic 6 Lite is all about. Unfortunately for the unboxing process here, there's not a lot to show you because Honor does not include a charger. We get our SIM tray tool, there's a little bit of paperwork there, and then a cable. Now this is a Type A to Type C cable, so unfortunately no charger is included to keep the cost down and to reduce the packaging size. The Magic 6 Lite does have a familiar design to it with the camera module. Now this part here is metal, the ring around where we have our cameras. So the ultra wide, that's 5 megapixels. There's a 2 megapixel camera that is macro at the top. I don't know why we're still getting 2 megapixel cameras in 2024 now. Not particularly good there. And then our main camera, this is good for this price point. It's a 108 megapixel camera, and later on I'll give you some samples, and in my testing it can take a really good photo. So material here on the back, it's got this shimmer effect to it. You can see it changes from like a lighter to slightly darker depending on the angle, how you have it. And I do like this. It's an emerald green color, they call it here, Honor. Now the frame all around the outside, this is plastic. So it's a plastic frame. It does make the phone feel a lot lighter compared to some of the flagships that I've been handling lately, which are on a little bit on the heavy side at 220 grams, those flagships. But this model here, 185 grams. Now it does also have a SGS 5-star drop resistant certification. So that's another thing too. So it should be able to handle the drops because of this frame, reduces the weight of it too. So I think it doesn't look bad at all. Here is our screen here at the front with its inbuilt fingerprint reader, and that does seem to work really well. Now I wish the location of it was about here. If you've seen my other videos, I like it when they're more comfortable to get to, but of course you get used to it. It's just a very minor little thing having it lower, and it unlocks pretty much every single time I go to use it. I've not had or experienced any problems with it at all. So the selfie camera, that one is 16 megapixels. Up the top here, we do have a secondary microphone. It looks like it could be an IR transmitter, but no. Secondary mic, there's no IR transmitter with this at all. Our SIM tray takes 2 nano SIMs, no micro SD card support, of course no 3.5mm headphone jack. Downwards firing speaker here, the mic, and our Type-C port. Now this is a USB 2 speeds here, no video out. I wasn't expecting that with this category of phone being more affordable. Just to point out too, with this loudspeaker, that's the only one. I didn't mention a loudspeaker in the earpiece because it's just this, okay? That's all we get, which is a little disappointing again. I think for a 2024 phone, it really should have dual loudspeakers. You miss out on that. And later, I will give you, of course, a sample of this and what it does sound like. What I think is the best part of this display is something that you're always looking at, of course. It's the screen, and you want to have a really nice screen. Now, it is curved. Okay, but we've got here an AMOLED screen that's 6.78 inches. It gets up to 1200 nits brightness, which is really great, and it's 120 hertz, so everything's very nice and smooth. Now, it does have their dynamic dimming. We've got the circadian night display to it, low blue light, and the best part too, Honor's been someone that's been pushing this for a while now, is 1920 hertz pulse width modulation dimming. So what does that mean? Well, it translates into a flicker-free screen. I don't see any flickers at all with it. I found it to be really good. It's very responsive to the UI. So my model here, I do have 8 gigabytes of RAM, and if you go into where our settings are, you can also allocate another 8. Now they have what is called their turbo RAM. Well, you can see it mentioned there, okay, with our Snapdragon 6 Gen 1. That's the caching there, so you get the 8 gigabytes of RAM and then our caching. Now, the security patch level is from September the 1st, and at the time of this video, we're now in January, so that's a little outdated there. I do hope Honor can update it. So it is using their MagicOS version 7.2, and I found the performance to be very smooth, really well optimized. And I would say it just feels like when you use this phone, more like a flagship than a mid-range of what the chipset actually is, being a mid-range one here with that Snapdragon 6 Gen 1. So performance excellent, no lag. I've encountered no bugs or anything. And of course, Google Play Store is all there. You get all of that and all your different apps. And it's just so smooth to use. It really does not feel like a mid-range phone at all. Honor does give us a lot of options with our screen. You've got your smart resolution, so that is on by default. The refresh rate by default is dynamic, but I like to force it to 120 Hertz. After all, I mean, that's what the phone does support maximum. The only reason to put it into the standard, of course, if you're running a little bit low on your battery life there too. So they've got video enhance, a few other bits and pieces, and I just demonstrate with the brightness that you can lower this right down and you're not going to see any flicker. So even when I put it down really, really low here, and I've tried with my shutter rate too as well to see the flicker, there's really none. Not with that 1920 Hertz pulse width modulation rate there, the Hertz, so you don't see any shimmering, none of those problems at all. I found the automatic brightness too, by the way, is working really well, and you can make the screen out in direct sunlight. It's very nice and bright and clear, great looking display. Now, Honor is one of very few brands here that I think haven't really installed a lot of bloatware or junky applications when you first get the phone. So this is after you've set it up, when you first really can get into the phone to start getting it, well, set up for you. You don't have all like TikTok and all sorts of other bits and pieces, Facebook already pre-installed. No, they've got a couple of things in there, but I do like this, and I hope Honor continue doing this. They don't just put a lot of all these suggested apps and whatnot. There are a few things, but they really are a lot better compared to some of the brands out there that go, well, overboard with the pre-installed junky applications. Battery life test here. So this is a fixed benchmark. You can compare this to all the phones I review. I run the same test. It goes until the battery gets to 20%, and then it displays the result here, which is 9 hours and 13 minutes. That's an average kind of score here. For a 5,300 milliamp hour battery, I was expecting maybe slightly more, but I did force the refresh rate to 120 Hertz. Now, if this was running at just the dynamic switching refresh rate there, then it would be a better result, probably about 10 hours. Realistically, with this phone, you're getting close to 7 is what I normally kind of get at 120 Hertz. Which is pretty much on par. I don't find the battery life to be super amazing, but I think it's not bad at all. Most people, well, definitely, I think, unless you're a gamer, you will make it through a full day using this with heavy use, just not gaming, of course, which is going to really sap that battery down quite a bit. So charge time using an Honor charger they do happen to have around here, using one of their faster charging rates, resulted in, well, they're just over an hour, so an hour and 25 minutes, sorry, hour and 15 minutes to fully charge the 5,300 milliamp hour battery. I don't know why it's saying 5,700 here, Antutu. That's not actually correct, but charging time, okay. I would have liked to have seen under an hour, but hey, that's not too bad there. So what isn't bad is the Antutu score. This is version 10, and I managed to get over 500,000 points. And this is where it feels, well, reasonably snappy when you're using it. Now you'll see that the weaker part here is the GPU of the Snapdragon 6 Gen 1, but the CPU score is very good, and the way that Honor has this UI optimized is just fantastic. It's very smooth and fluid, and as I said, it does not feel like a mid-range phone. It feels more like a flagship, the performance of the UI that is. So the storage speeds, this is UFS 3, and those are very decent speeds there for this type of phone at its price point. Very good, and no complaints from me either with the throttling. This phone doesn't throttle. Okay. 0.3%. That's all it throttled here with Wildlife's extreme stress test. So this goes for 20 minutes and the score is very low here. It's, as I've just pointed out, the GPU is not really that powerful, so the GPU does not generate a lot of heat. It does not get warm. It's a very cool running phone. And for gamers out there, yeah, there are definitely better options out there. Certainly, you can see that the frame rate, well, 3 to 6 with this demanding test. Wow. But it only went up 2 degrees. That was it. That is absolutely nothing. So that's why I say it just does not get warm when you game on it. it is very good. So wideband level 1 cert, so that means Netflix is in full HD, and I did check that out. I'll show you that shortly. Safety net status, well, it gets a pass, so banking applications, great, you can use all of those, you're not going to have any problems. And this is from the Netflix in-app settings to look at the playback specification. And you can see here, full HD. Brilliant, that's good, and you can see it. The quality of the screen is great for media consumption like that, for watching Netflix, if you happen to do that with your phone. When it comes to our loudspeakers, bit disappointing here because it's just that single loudspeaker, as I pointed out there at the start when we looked at the design, and it is not loud enough to my ears. It really should be a lot louder. If you've listened to some of my other reviews of phones, you probably pick up on the sample that I'm about to give you now is at 100%, but you can hear that it's just really not loud enough. Gaming with our Magic6 Lite here is not as bad as you would think it would be, judging from the GPU score from those synthetic benchmarks. It's certainly not the most powerful point, and the weaker point of that chipset, our Snapdragon 6 Gen 1, is the GPU. However, Genshin Impact, top settings here, and that's the highest, set to 60 frames per second. It's all right. It's fine. You see the occasional frame dips, a little bit of lag. Certainly when you load in different areas of the game later on, you can see, even I look around now, a few little stutters. So you would probably be wanting to run definitely the kind of medium settings or low settings, I think, just to keep that frame rate as close to 60 as possible. But still, turns out to be a lot better than I was expecting, the performance from the Snapdragon 6 Gen 1. Over to the cameras now. So this is the front-facing 16 megapixel camera. We get 1080p maximum with it, and it does not look to have electronic image stabilization with the 16 megapixel camera, unfortunately. You can see it's shaking around. The rear camera can shoot 4K, but we are limited to 4K 30 frames per second and a 10-minute capture time. If you go over that 10 minutes, well, it will stop recording. I don't know why they have implemented that. I don't think it would overheat. And as you can see, there is no electronic image stabilization with 4K 30. So now with 1080p footage, it does seem that it is using electronic image stabilization, although it is not very good. As you can see now, as I walk ahead, there are some jolts coming through. Shakes about a little bit, which isn't good. So I hope with a firmware update that Honor can fix this and make the electronic image stabilization better for 1080p video with the rear camera, add it to the front camera, and hopefully they can also add it to 4K footage. The ultra-wide camera, 5 megapixels, not good. Look at this video quality. It does not have electronic image stabilization, and it is dropping frames. As I pan around, this is not 30 frames per second. So there is a lot of room here for improvement with the video quality. Thankfully, it's not all bad news with the cameras. Selfies look pretty good. Plenty of details from that 16 megapixel camera. Portraits, decent enough for this category of phone. And other photos, well, bright flowers, I noticed it did struggle quite a bit with those brighter colors, as you can see from these two shots here of these flowers. Yeah, not the best. A little bit oversaturated clipping there too. So the color science of the ultra wide, as you can see here, compared to now the main 108 megapixel camera, there's a bit of a difference, a bit of a gap there, but that main camera can take some decent photos. This is 3x digital zoom, which still looks usable. It's all right. This shot as well, still with the 3x. Overall, not too bad for the main camera. Another shot here in more lower light conditions. And then getting onto our night shots, well, it's all right, but there is a bit of noise you can see with the background, some grain to these shots. Honor's Magic6 Lite here has a lot of good things going for it. The screen is bright, it's sharp, it doesn't have any flicker to it, and the UI is also incredibly smooth and fantastic performance. It makes this, what is a low-end phone, feel like a flagship phone in use. Everything loads up really quick and snappy, multitasking is very smooth, and it really could fool me almost when you're using to think that, oh, is this powered by a flagship chipset, even though it isn't. The gaming performance is fine. Now, it's not a gaming phone. You will occasionally notice some frame dips with really demanding games out there. It's not that powerful. That's the weakness to the phone with its chipset, is the GPU performance. But still, I can play Genshin Impact with a decent frame rate there, so not really too much of a problem. The areas where there is definite improvement needed is the cameras, as I showed you. I think that the video performance is just downright disappointing with no electronic image stabilization, with 4K, and with a front-facing camera, so they've got a lot of work to do, and I hope a firmware update can add and fix that. The other things, well, you can't fix, and that is that it's only got a mono speaker down below. There's no 3.5mm headphone jack either. So disappointing to see they didn't or couldn't put a loudspeaker in the earpiece. That would have been great. So there's some good things, there's some bad, and of course there is no charger included in the box, probably to reduce that price, make it a little bit more affordable, and of course to cut down on the shipping size of it, having a smaller packet there. So that is the full story to Honor's Magic 6 Lite. Thank you so much for watching my review.